I've been riding my 450MT over a year now, and I've taken this bike to almost everywhere, from the remote Australian Outback to the Victorian High Country. And like most adventure rider and almost any motorcycle owner, I slowly accumulate a lot of modification from the beginning. So if you are thinking about setting up your own 450MT to fit your adventure journey, this will be a very useful video. And be sure to stick around to the end because there's one modification that everybody did and I just skip it, and that's not the one you expect. Before I going through my list, I need to let you know that all my modification is serve the purpose for my style of adventure riding, which I knew from the beginning that will be a 50-50 mixture of the road and easy trail off-road riding, designed for comfort, long-distance travel and sightseeing, and all of my mods serve around that goal. Anyway, let's start from the front end of the bike. The first thing I did for this bike is change to this larger extension of the windscreen. The stock windscreen was only 30 centimeters tall, and I've changed to this 40 centimeter, fully extended. And sitting on the bike, I can feel the wind buffeting just over my helmet. And when I'm doing off-road, I just simply lower it down, and it's not disrupting and causing any issue when I'm doing technical terrain. Initially, it worked perfectly with my height, but now it doesn't really fit me anymore because after I changed to the rally seat, I sit slightly taller than before, and now even with the fully extended, I still feel the wind just hitting in the middle of my helmet. So my recommendation is change to the 40 centimeter tall windscreen if you are in my similar height. If you are anywhere taller than me, or already having the rally seat, getting the 45 centimeter tall windscreen, and that should work well for you. Another modification I think it did very well for all of my trip is the upper crusher bar. These are CFMOTO brand crush bar, but I think there are many aftermarket design and which actually providing better support. There was one particular design I think will be helpful is having a crossbar connecting a little bit lower of the crush bar. So when it hits the ground, it doesn't bend or change their shape. The purpose of upper crush bar is quite obvious. It will protect your bike, your body panel from a drop and preventing for a bigger damage. But there's other hidden benefit. One is it allow you to mounting actual stuff on your bike. One is I using this crush bar to as an actual mounting point for all of my action camera. You probably see from my previous video, I've adding additional bag on the side of the crush bar, which give me additional storage space. I also using the front end of the crush bar to mount my auxiliary light. I got those side of light from Colite, and they has been operating very well, served me very well, especially in some of the tricky condition. There will be people talking about that you should never be riding in the dust in the morning or in the night. But in reality, if you are riding on an adventure trip, eventually you will end up riding somewhat in the night. So having this one give me actual peace of mind. Continue on the topic of crash protection, you will notice I have the color matching Handguard, replacing the stock plastic cover. I've dropped my bike multiple times and this has been served me very well. It protects my handlebar from bending and also protect my finger. It served somewhat like a wind buffeting in riding in the cold evening. So overall, I think it's pretty good. In saying that, I dropped my bike even with a stock plastic cover on. So if you are not riding technical terrain and just want to focusing on the long commute on the highway, maybe just the stock plastic cover will be enough. Looking at the side of the bike, I think the first thing you will notice will be the customized decal or sticker. Personally, I love the look of it, but ever since I put the first video, I think this setup or the color scheme has disturbed a lot of nerve. The entire decal is not expensive, it's only cost me roughly $200 including shipping, but putting the decal on took me a lot of effort, and I think personally I invest roughly $10 just to put it on properly, and majority of the time was focusing on modify and wrapping the front fender. But I have to say, I love it and I really enjoying the look of it. And this bike, after the transformation of the decal, it does raise a lot of attention from other riders, or I think from the internet as well. So highly recommended for this modification. Would I do this again? Probably not, because it is a lot of effort just to put it on properly. Another change gonna be the rally seat. Initially, I don't think I need it because I'm not really a tall person. I'm 175. When I sit on the original seat, I can easily put both of my feet on the ground. But throughout my adventure trip, I've noticed every time when I have load on the rear end of the bike, for example, a heavy luggage, the bike sink down quite a lot. And I have this feeling I'm kind of riding a cruiser. One thing I did was to tighten up the rear suspension. Another change for me is just to ordering this rally seat, and I have been using this ever since. It's definitely a modification that you have to get used to it. This will raise the seat height from 830 to 870. I can't flat fit anymore. I can only just tiptoe to move the bike around. But so far, I haven't dropped the bike because of that. Another benefit is I don't feel cramp on my leg anymore. It's easier for me to stand up quickly with a little bit less effort. Another advantage of changing to the rally seat is definitely adding the actual padding. The center seat is very thin. For long riding, after a couple of hours, you definitely feel the pain. Changing to the rally seat, all of that are padding. It's nice and soft. Personally, I think rally seat is a must-have, even you are only thinking about doing adventure or touring. I've also swapped to this Western Moto luggage rack designed for 450MT. The stock setup was 1.5 kilo and this is 2.5, but I think the trade-off is well worth it. Having a luggage rack, even for rackless system, has the benefit. It gives actual mounting point, providing support so the luggage is not touching the exhaust or the rear wheel. It's also a very slick design, and personally I think it's cleaned up the rear end of the bike. You probably also noticed my exhaust looks different from the stock, and I got this one from AliExpress. Initially I had the full system, but after a couple of the trip I changed to the stock header because the full system was too loud. Even with earplug, I think it's quite annoying. One thing I did differently is just to adding this actual mounting extension, so the exhaust is not melting my indicator, and so far everything looks great. Now looking at the cockpit, there are a lot of things going on here. The first thing you'll notice will be the navigation unit here. I'm running Aoocci U6, which is basically an Android device that can run individual apps. I have the DMD2 installed, which is my go-to off-road navigation apps that I'll be running. If I press the button, it will give me the tire pressure. Now, I'm not sure if you can see, it has a camera pointing in the rear, so I can still see what is happening behind me in the real time. I've also removed the stock mirror just to give the bike a more clean look. The only reason I've get rid of the mirror because one, I need the additional mounting point for my action camera. Another reason was I just want a cleaner view when I'm shooting from my helmet. To keep the bike still street legal, I have these two smaller cheap mirror mounting on my handlebar. Honestly, they are terrible. You can't see anything from it, and it changes position every time when you are hitting a highway or go off-road. They are quite easy to move around. I would not recommend it for you to do it. I've also got this shortened clutch and brake lever. Not only it gives me the great feedback and much comfortable to use, it also allows me to force me to operating only with two fingers, especially with a brake when off-road riding. The build quality was excellent and it fit into the style of the bike perfectly. You probably think the control panel looks a little bit busy, and in truth it is. I have this is a remote for my navigation unit, and this is remote for my auxiliary light. have different function, and it can flush ink when I need it. I've also have this screen protector made from plastic. It will keep the dust and the rain off of the original soft screen, and if I'm wiping the dirt off, I won't scratching the surface. There are modifications behind the cover here. One thing I did is change to the 15-tooth front sprocket. I have a dedicated video for testing the before and after. Overall, very happy with the result. I think it's definitely changed how the bike performs. People had their different thoughts on whether I should or shouldn't change the front sprocket. It's really depending on the preferences. You saw a lot of footage of me climbing on the dirt trail. All that 15-tooth front sprocket did for me is to make the bike more tolerant on the highway speed without compromising too much on the off-road capability. Another thing I did was adding a gear stabilizer, which was designed for CFMOTO 450SS. Don't do that. It doesn't worth the money or effort. It makes no difference. And last but not least, tires. So this is my third set of rear tire for this bike. The bike comes standard with 80/20 tire, pretty good on the road, but a little bit wobbly and not very confident in sparring when doing off-road. Around 5,000 K, I've changed to a side of the Shinko A05, A04. That tire lasts me roughly 10,000 kilometers. Overall, I think they are okay. Great on-road performance, adequate off-road. I think it's more towards a 60/40 tire. It doesn't give a lot of support on the soft sand or in a muddy condition. I lose traction and drop my bike multiple times. After that, I've changed my rear tire to the Mitas U6, and it has been performed very well. In the last couple of the trips, I have only good things about it. It never missed a beat. And for my front tire, I'm still running the Shinko A04. Mainly two reasons. One, I haven't wear out the front tire just yet. Second, they actually perform very well, and I think the shape and design of the E04 give it a little bit more off-road capability. I'm currently running this as a mixed match, but I think eventually I will change my front tire to the Mitas U7 as well. Oof. How many miles was that? I sort of lost count. And to be honest, I think I'm done with my adventure build for the 450MT. I'm sure there are a lot of modifications that can still be added into the bike, but I think I finished my build for my 450MT, and that's all I want to add it to my bike. And there was one modification that I seriously considered, but decided to not install it after all, and that is the bash plate. Initially, I was just waiting the stock plate to get smashed or dent after a few months of riding, but that never happened. And eventually I realized my style of the adventure riding probably don't need an additional heavy-duty bash plate. And same reason goes to the radiator guard. So I keep them as stock, and so far they work just fine. I had a video ranking all the available parts and the modification available in the market for this bike, but for this time, I just want to focus on the modification I did for my personal 450MT. And if you like this type of the content, give me a thumb up, boosting this video for more content like this in the future. I'm also planning a video series for 450MT, including my luggage setup, my camping setup, and eventually my 20,000 kilometer long-term owner review. Subscribe to stay tuned on those contents. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.